Coming back to the just concluded Second Regional Security Summit held in Abuja is the Nigeria Summit on National Security 2016, and that summit was on the central theme confronting and containing threats from terrorism and sectarian insurgency. We had very strategic speakers from within and outside the country, and one of the very strategic speakers was Anders Rasmussen. Anders Rasmussen, as you know, is at the center of European and global politics, 3 decades as Secretary General of Nato and former Prime Minister of Denmark, and also Danish Minister of Economic Affairs and a leading Danish parliamentarian. You're welcome to Diplomatic Ties.
Thank you.
Beautiful. You're in Abuja, or you were in Abuja for this summit. How did it go?
Well, I think it was a very useful summit in which we discussed concrete measures in the fight against terrorism, and that's one of the most important issues right now, I think.
Because they have trouble finding meaning in life or economic opportunity. Because they are deeply frustrated.
If we reach out far enough, we can use dialogue, we can use diplomacy, we can use negotiation to bring these people on board and find out why they are doing what they're doing.
We hope to get away from here with implementable solutions that will help us add value to the strategies that we are using to deal with insurgency in Nigeria.
And given the thematic survey we read ahead of the summit, a couple of issues were trumped up. How well did you guys address them with regards to how best to resolve the insurgency threats in Nigeria?
I think overall we need 3 things. Firstly, to enhance the hard security measures, and I think your president has made huge progress in that respect. Secondly, we also need to improve economic development and integration. And thirdly, I also think we need a stronger democratic voice in the world.
Okay. You guys are looking towards giving a lasting solution to insurgency, not just in Nigeria, but the West African sub-region. So what resolution are you guys looking at eventually? Because when summits like this hold, people expect that it's just talk, no solutions. What are we expecting this time around?
Well, I agree with you that what we need is concrete steps to really fight terrorism so that people can live safely and in a secure environment. So that is the ultimate goal, to get rid of terrorism so that Nigeria again can flourish. In particular in the north we have seen a lot of problems, but recently also in the Niger Delta. So the ultimate goal is to ensure peace, calm, order in Nigeria so that the country can take advantage of all its potential.
At the end of the Second Regional Security Summit, 4 concerns were raised. The EU agreed to the fact that yes, there are security threats that should be attended to, and I think they made an assistance of 50 million euros to it. Second, Libya is key to checking insurgency in Nigeria. The third factor is that the Chibok girls debacle is still haunting Nigeria. So how best can this be handled?
The terrorism can best be handled first and foremost through determined efforts to fight terrorism through, I would say, military measures. In that respect, it is of utmost importance that your president has taken steps to get rid of corruption in and around the military, that more resources are devoted to the military to fight the insurgency. We also need more international cooperation. We need to support Nigeria. We need better exchange of intelligence and other kinds of information. But it's important to stress that on top of that, we also need better economic development, including the eradication of poverty.
Okay, so You're within the EU, and the EU has worked for 40 years with Nigeria. Where do you think the EU can come in here?
I think the European Union can play an important role in promoting economic development and growth and job creation in Nigeria. Of course, this is not just about aid. It's first and foremost about trade. And I think the European Union, as the world's largest trading bloc, could also play an important role in stimulating the Nigerian economy through better trade agreements.
Okay. 1 year down the line, by May 29th, 2015, the president administration in Nigeria will be 1 full year in office. What's your assessment of the administration so far?
I think the president has made great progress, not least as regards security. He has also clamped down on corruption. I think both measures are very important. But at the same time, I have to say, I think he should pursue more liberal policies when it comes to economy. For instance, the government has blocked imports, which is hurting Nigerian businesses, big as well as small businesses. The government has also tied the Nigerian currency, the naira, directly to the dollar. I think it would be a better idea to let it float freely. Actually, I think the president has a chance to be really a great president, a big name in Nigeria, if on top of his determined effort to strengthen his military efforts, his fight against corruption, if on top of that he also liberalized the economy, then he would be a great president, I'm sure.
Okay, let me take you back to insurgency now. We have the multinational joint task force made up of Niger, Cameroon, Benin Republic, Chad, and indeed Nigeria, being like the center of it. Do you think they are doing a wonderful job? I'm asking you this because during the days of Ebola, US President Obama said, if you don't check it at the source, it may affect all of us. Do you think the multi-joint is doing a wonderful job?
There is no doubt that local and regional cooperation is essential if you are to really fight terrorism. So I appreciate also in that respect the president has done a great job. He has traveled around, he has gathered a coalition to fight Boko Haram and other militant insurgents. However, having said that, I also think the United States should exercise more determined global leadership, because without backing from the United States, it's impossible to really fight terrorism.
Really? So, back to Denmark. Former Prime Minister of Denmark and former Danish Minister of Economic Affairs and a leading Danish parliamentarian. What's your assessment of Nigeria's relations with Denmark? Is it win-win or win-lose?
Oh, it's win-win.
Why would you say win-win?
And to illustrate it, we have just opened a new embassy here in Abuja, and a trade mission in Lagos. Because Nigeria is now Africa's biggest economy. Nigeria plays a very important role politically, and this is a reason why we have decided to step up our engagement with Nigeria.
In which areas? You know, Nigeria is talking about diversification of the nation's economy now, from oil to agriculture, solid minerals, name it. So which areas are you likely to come in?
Yeah, well, in shipping, you know, the Maersk company, it's a Danish company which already runs a big terminal here in Lagos, actually. We also have agricultural companies who would like to get a stronger foothold in Nigeria. I also think there is a huge potential when it comes to pharmaceutical, which is one of the very strong Danish competences.
Okay. Imagine I approach you as a diplomat from Nigeria and I say, come and talk to Nigerians, Mr. Anders, on why they must be calm and patient with the current administration for Nigeria to move on. What message should be telling those group of Nigerians? If you're a resource person now, you're asked, come and change the mindset reorientation of these guys over what government is doing in Nigeria. What will you be saying?
Well, first of all, I would say I understand your impatience. I really understand it, because basically Nigeria has so many resources, such a huge potential, that Nigeria should be able to provide better services to its people and to have a strong economic growth. So I understand your impatience. That would be my first message. Secondly, I would say the current president has really started on a new path. As I said, he has strengthened security measures. He has intensified the fight against corruption. All that is good. But what you should do now is to press for more liberal policies when it comes to trade, when it comes to energy subsidies. I think you could use the low energy prices to actually cut subsidies on energy. And finally, you should also liberalize your currency in order to gain some competitiveness. Today you have fixed the exchange rate at a too high level, which is hurting Nigerian businesses. So you should support your president where it's needed, and you should push for liberalization where it's necessary.
Okay, so what would be your opinion? Because the Nigerian government and a good chunk of the private sector, the business class mostly, are saying we want to see the mega companies come to Nigeria, establish here, manufacture here, export from here. What would be your opinion?
I would say, first of all, there is a huge potential here. But as long as the security situation is as bad as it is very, very difficult to attract foreign direct investments. So it is a prerequisite for really attracting foreign investments that the security situation is improved significantly. You have to stop the insurgency before you can really increase foreign investments in Nigeria.
Okay, I spoke with Michel Arion, the EU ambassador in Nigeria and leader of delegation in Nigeria for ECOWAS, and once he told me, he talked about power generation. Is there an issue? Let me share that with you.
Power generation.
Is power generation an issue? Could it be an issue? Or could something be done about it?
Could be, yes. Okay. Absolutely.
If something's not done about it, is it possible that you could bring your industry to manufacture here and export from here?
Denmark?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, but we do already.
Okay.
The Maersk company, as I mentioned, is running a huge shipping terminal in Lagos, which of course is a hub in West Africa for shipping. So obviously we can, but again, security plays a role. It is a fact that the Gulf of Guinea is now the most dangerous place to do shipping because of piracy. So you also have to combat piracy in the Gulf of Guinea if you are to really increase foreign investments.
Okay, what's your position with regards to the migrant crisis in the world today? And the EU is trying to reshape that with Nigeria, migrant crisis.
Well, first, the internal EU challenge is to carry out, I would say, a pan-European solution, a solution that covers the whole of the European Union. But apart from that, we have to address the root causes of migrant and refugee flows. And some of the root causes, you find them in the Middle East, in Syria, in Iraq, where in Syria people are threatened by the Assad regime, the brutal Assad regime, as well as Islamic State. So they have decided to flee, and many of them go to Europe. And that's really, it's impossible for Europe to solve all the world's refugee and migrant problems. It's not possible. And that's why we need to strengthen the external border control, and we need to send back illegal immigrants, because we can't absorb all that. And if too many people try to enter Europe, then our integration policies will not work. There is a limit as to how many you can actually integrate. So with all respect and with all the best will to help people in Africa to a better life in Europe, I have to tell you, we can't solve all those problems. So the better alternative would be for the European Union to actually stimulate the economic development in African countries, so people prefer to stay instead of going to Europe.
Okay, last but one question. At the end of, if terrorism is completely disseminated and eliminated within Africa, within the West African sub-region, and even within Nigeria, what best peace-building efforts can be put in place to ensure that people don't think about that anymore?
First of all, I will have to tell you that I don't think we will ever get completely rid of terrorism. I think all the way through you will always have some crazy people who will exercise terrorism. So that's my first point. But secondly, if hypothetically we could imagine a world without terrorism, what would be the best way forward? Well, obviously,
using the peculiarity of Nigeria.
Yeah. Yep. I would say priority number one is to eradicate poverty. That's really the best way to prevent people from joining terrorists and insurgency groups out of frustration. So you have to really give people a perspective. They have to believe in their own future. So I would say eradication of poverty would be my first priority.
Okay, next one. I thought you have like 2-3 key things.
Oh, the next one. Apart from poverty, I believe that education is very, very important, because through education you also empower people to actually avoid poverty. And my third priority would be to ensure that women in poor countries get better opportunities. We know from experience, and I speak out of the Danish experience from our development assistance. We know that once you empower women, you empower the whole family. You really promote economic progress through the economic empowerment of women. So these three elements, eradication of poverty, better education, and empowerment of women, that would be my three priorities.
Okay. You are a frontline Danish parliamentarian. What's your opinion about parliamentary diplomacy, please? Parliamentary diplomacy. What's your opinion?
Yeah, democracy.
No,
well,
parliamentary diplomacy.
Parliamentary diplomacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We seem to pay lip service to it in Africa, but over your climb there, it plays out very well. Parliamentary diplomacy.
But what do you mean with? What is parliamentary diplomacy?
Is there any point in a bilateral relations in Denmark you don't involve the parliamentarians? That's what I mean.
Interparliamentarians.
Yes.
Oh yes. Well, actually, you do have. It's called IPU. It's an interparliamentary union, which is a global assembly of parliamentarians, and maybe it could be made stronger. Of course, it could. Actually, my very first visit to Africa many years ago were through the IPU.
Where was this? Nigeria?
It was in Togo.
Togo, okay.
Not Nigeria, but close.
To Nigeria.
Is this your first time in Nigeria?
Beg your pardon?
It's your
Yeah,
first
it's
time in
my
Nigeria?
very first visit to Nigeria.
Oh, really?
And it's been a great pleasure to visit Nigeria. Unfortunately, it's a very short visit.
Let me
this
take that
time.
as your last question, but let us conclude on the IPU stuff. You're talking about IPU.
Yeah. The Interparliamentary Union is a good forum, I would say, for exchange of views among the world's parliamentarians. And I think it would be a good idea to strengthen IPU.
Okay, well, before I let you go, Anders Rasmussen, you are a household name when we talk about NATO. You were NATO Secretary General sometime and Prime Minister of Denmark sometime. Now, you said this is your first time in Nigeria, do a short visit. What are your impressions?
Of Nigeria,
Yeah,
I
Nigeria.
have,
You have interacted one-on-one with people.
yeah, I
You
did.
have interacted at the official level.
I did.
You have met politicians. You have met businessmen. You have met journalists. So what's your impression if I ask you?
But-
or if you arrive in Denmark and you're asked, you're welcome back from Nigeria.
Yeah.
How was it? What would you be saying?
Yeah, but with the caveats that, of course, Abuja is not representative for Nigeria as such, I would say my very short visit to Nigeria has just confirmed that Nigeria holds a lot of potential. And with a slight change of policies, you would be able to release all that potential and stimulate economic growth, job creation, eradicate poverty, because you have all the resources to do that.
Private sector engagements?
Beg
What's your
pardon?
opinion? Your opinion about private sector engagements in governance?
Absolutely. Without the private sector, you cannot achieve your goals, in my opinion. Again, this is not a question about aid, but it is more about trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I thank you.
Anders Rasmussen,
Thank you.
former Prime Minister of Denmark and former Secretary General of NATO, leading Danish parliamentarian. It was a pleasure having you, and we believe you had a wonderful stay in Nigeria.
Thank
and
you.
we hope very soon you come and be a keynote speaker in a very strategic meeting in Nigeria. That's about that on Diplomatic Ties today. Thanks for being there. Bye-bye.